So I just want to go over some of the processes that are included in my painting. A lot of it doesn't actually have to do with some of the more specific figurative details, but the things that I think are important before, after, and during the painting. So as you can see here, I'm sanding some of the gesso that was applied to the stretched canvas. For me, that's where the real painting actually starts, is with the ground, right before any of the actual paint gets laid down. So I'm using two different grits of sandpaper, 400 and a 200. After I apply the gesso, I like to do it in a very loose manner, leave some of the brush strokes in there. As you can see here, I'm even going into the edges. I like this idea of the paragon by this philosopher Derrida. His concept kind of investigated the importance of the frame and how it really sets the artwork in a space. Think of the setting of the artwork. It's a white wall gallery, underground show in a basement under a freeway bridge somewhere. And I think all of that goes into the making process. As you can see here, I'm in the paint booth that we have at Cal State San Bernardino. There's this essay by writer Johnny Golding about the dark room and how when one's in there creating work, they aren't in the moment, they are part of the moment, with the air vents here sucking up the paint fumes and the noise, the clatters of the marbles in the paint cans, and kind of moving. I try to channel the action painters and drip painters like Jackson Pollock. I even think about Yves Klein and his anthropometry series, and have some of that movement mark what I'm feeling, but also within the spray paint. It's not as much about the colors as it is about the way I'm layering, the way I layer the paint. It's almost wet on wet, early modernist painters, and I try to capture whatever the feeling is with this small idea in my head. I try not to be too precise about it. I usually save that for the work that comes after with the figurative acrylic and oil elements. But in here, as you can see, I kind of step away. I look at some of the drips. I see the splatters. I see how they're layering. There's a way that the tackiness goes on when the paint hasn't fully dried, especially with some of the tips that aren't working as well. I'll layer all this paint. I leave some areas that I want highlighted and I go back into them. After I add some of the figurative elements, some of the ideas that I'm actually trying to communicate with more traditional painting methods, and add some other stencil work over the top. This is actually a different painting, but I had this figure of my niece, and I wanted to highlight it by creating another plane over that acrylic paint. So I created this image, making it look like shattered glass. I'll usually do these stencils out of newspaper print or regular drawing paper. As you can see here, I had to layer down pieces of wood and spray paint can caps to kind of hold some of the thinner pieces with the aerosol paint. The paper will lift up and I'll get areas of paint that weren't anticipated. I think this goes a little bit back into the whole process with some of the randomness. So whether that's the way that the sanding of the gesso comes out, or the spray painting for the ground, or some of the stencils after, I think letting some of those impurities and imperfections shine through is ultimately what influences how I do the work, influences the message and the final outcome.